My beloved child, as the first light of this new day breaks across the vast and varied canvas of this land you call the United States of America, from the rocky coasts of Maine, where the Atlantic whispers ancient secrets, to the golden shores of California, where the Pacific crashes with a wild and restless joy, from the crystalline lakes of the northern woods to the sun-baked deserts of the southwest, where the earth remembers its fiery birth, from the rolling plains that stretch like an endless sea of grass to the majestic snow-capped peaks of the Rockies that scrape the very heavens. I speak this truth over you, and over this nation you inhabit. You are held, you are loved, you are free. This is not a truth that depends on the whims of markets, the outcomes of elections, the decrees of governments, or the strength of your own convictions, for it is a truth rooted in the very fabric of your being, woven into you before the foundation of the world, a truth that breathes life into the dream that is America, a dream that has flickered and flamed, been battered and bruised, yet has never been extinguished, because it was first a whisper from my own heart, a whisper that spoke creation into existence, and then looked upon humanity, my highest handiwork, and called it very good. Look out upon this land, this experiment in liberty, this beacon that has drawn the weary, the poor, the huddled masses yearning to breathe free from every corner of the globe, and see not just a political entity or a geographical location, but a stage upon which the drama of human freedom, my greatest gift to you, has been played out with all its glorious triumphs and its grievous, heartbreaking failures. In the beginning, the very idea of a nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal was a seed planted in the soil of human consciousness, a seed that would require centuries of struggle, sacrifice, and blood to even begin to sprout, and I have watched over that seed with a gardener's patient love, watering it with the tears of the oppressed, pruning it with the hard lessons of history, and warming it with the persistent sunshine of human hope. For in your longing for freedom, you are echoing the very freedom for which I created you, the freedom to choose, to love, to create, to build, and yes, even to turn away. This morning, as you sip your coffee in a bustling city apartment, or step onto the dew-kissed grass of a rural farm, as you commute on a crowded highway or walk a quiet path through a national park, I want you to feel the deep, abiding truth of my presence, not as a distant deity observing from afar, but as a father who walks alongside you, who holds your hand in the dark, who celebrates your joys and weeps in your sorrows, and who sees in the intricate tapestry of this nation a reflection of your own beautiful, broken, and beloved soul. Consider the story of this land, a story that is, at its core, a story of seeking and being found, of running and being caught, of falling and being lifted up, a story that begins long before the Pilgrims landed or the Declaration was signed, in the hearts of the indigenous peoples who first walked these lands, and saw my face in the sun and my breath in the wind, who understood a stewardship of the earth that modern society has largely forgotten, and whose own narratives of creation and community were a testament to the truth that I have never left myself without a witness in any corner of the world, and though their voices were too often silenced and their bodies displaced in the tragic, sinful expansion of a new nation, their blood cries out from the soil, a reminder that the promise of freedom must be for all people, or it is a hollow promise indeed. And then came the waves of immigrants, the tired, the poor, the tempest-tossed, who looked upon a distant statue lifting her lamp beside the golden door, and saw not just a symbol of welcome, but a promise of a new beginning, a chance to shed the weight of old oppressions, old famines, old persecutions, and I was with them in the cramped steerage of those ships, with them as they passed through the great hall on Ellis Island, their names sometimes changed by a clerk's pen, but their identities forever known and cherished by me. And I saw the hope in their eyes as they fanned out across this vast land, bringing with them their languages, their customs, their foods, their faiths, weaving them into the rich and ever-changing quilt of American culture, a testament to the beauty of diversity and the strength that comes when many voices sing together in harmony, even when that harmony is difficult to achieve. Through it all, through the Revolutionary War that birthed a nation, a struggle fraught with its own contradictions and compromises, through the forging of a constitution that was, for its time, a daring and unprecedented attempt to create a government of the people, by the people, for the people, a document that, though imperfect, contained within it the seeds of its own expansion, the promise of a more perfect union that would be debated, fought for, and slowly, painstakingly realized over the centuries. I was there, not as a partisan actor favoring one side over another, but as the still, small voice of conscience whispering to founders and farmers alike, to generals and privates, to orators and ordinary citizens, reminding them of the higher law of love and justice that must undergird any society that hopes to endure. I was there in the bitter cold of Valley Forge, where men who believed in something larger than themselves suffered and died, and I was there in the sweltering heat of the Constitutional Convention, where weary delegates hammered out compromises that would hold a fragile union together. And I was there, most painfully, in the brutal institution of slavery that so fundamentally contradicted the very ideals upon which the nation was founded. That great and terrible sin that stained the land from its earliest days, a sin that treated children made in my image as property, that tore families apart, that built wealth on the backs of unimaginable suffering. And I heard the cries of those enslaved people, cries that rose up from the cotton fields of the South and the plantations of the Caribbean, cries that did not fall on deaf ears. For I am the God who hears the cry of the oppressed, and I was with them in their sorrow, in their resistance, in their secret meetings where they sang of freedom and whispered my name, and I was with the brave souls on the Underground Railroad who risked everything to lead their brothers and sisters to a promised land that, even in the North, often proved to be only a partial freedom. The Civil War that followed was a national reckoning, a bloody and terrible baptism by fire that tested whether a nation so conceived and so dedicated could long endure. And in the wheat fields of Gettysburg and the wilderness of Virginia, in the trenches and on the battlefields, I was there, holding the dying in their final moments, comforting the grieving families on both sides of the conflict, weeping over a nation tearing itself apart. And, in the immortal words of a weary president at Gettysburg, a new birth of freedom was proclaimed, a promise that the dead would not have died in vain, a hope that this nation, under God, would have a new birth of freedom, a hope that was immediately tested in the crucible of Reconstruction, and then tragically betrayed by the rise of Jim Crow, by lynchings in the night, by a system of segregation and oppression that re-enslaved a people in all but name, and through all those dark decades, through the Great Migration and the Harlem Renaissance, through the continued struggle for basic human dignity, I was with my children, holding them in my arms, fanning the flames of hope in their hearts, raising up leaders like Sojourner Truth and Frederick Douglass, and later in the 20th century, a young preacher from Atlanta who would become the voice of a new movement, a movement that would finally begin to tear down the walls of legal segregation. That movement, the Civil Rights Movement, was one of the most profound expressions of my love in action in the history of this nation, for it was rooted in the teachings of my son, in the principle of nonviolent resistance to evil, in the radical idea that love is the most powerful force in the universe. And I was with Rosa Parks as she refused to give up her seat, with the students who sat patiently at lunch counters while being taunted and abused, with the marchers who walked from Selma to Montgomery, their feet bloodied but their spirits unbroken. And I was with Martin Luther King Jr. as he stood on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial and shared his dream with a nation and a world, a dream that was not a political slogan but a prophetic vision, a dream deeply rooted in the American dream that one day this nation would rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. And though an assassin's bullet silenced his voice, his dream, my dream, lived on, carried in the hearts of millions who continued the march toward justice. Through all of this, through the world wars that called upon the nation to be a force for freedom against global tyranny, through the Great Depression that tested the resilience of the human spirit and led to a new understanding of community and mutual responsibility, through the Cold War that cast a long shadow of anxiety and fear, through the technological revolutions that connected the world in ways previously unimaginable, through the culture wars and political divisions that seemed to grow deeper with each passing year, through the triumphs of landing a man on the moon and the tragedies of assassinations and mass shootings and terrorist attacks that have shaken the nation to its core, through it all, my love has been the constant, unwavering presence, the still point in a turning world, the anchor in the storm. And so, my child, as you awaken to this new day in the United States of America, I want you to know, deep in your bones, that you are held, You are held in the palm of my hand, a hand that bears the scars of a love so great it would rather be nailed to a cross than let you go. You are held, not by the fragile securities of your bank account, or the approval of your peers, or the stability of your government, but by an everlasting love that has pursued you from the very beginning, and will pursue you until the very end. When you feel lost in the noise and chaos of the news cycle, when you are overwhelmed by the polarization and anger that seems to permeate every conversation, when you fear for the future of your children and your children's children in a world that can feel so uncertain and dangerous, remember that you are held. You are held by the God who spoke the universe into being, and who numbers the very hairs on your head. And in that holding, there is a peace that passes all understanding, a peace that can calm the raging seas of your own heart, and allow you to see beyond the temporary tumult to the eternal truth. You are also loved. You are loved with an everlasting love, a love that is not based on your performance, your patriotism, your political affiliation, your race, your gender, or your worthiness. For my love is what makes you worthy. It is the foundation of your identity. I love you not because of the color of your skin or the content of your character, as important as character is, but because you are my child, and I am your father. I love the United States of America, not because it is a perfect nation or a chosen nation in some exclusive sense, but because it is a nation filled with my children, each one fearfully and wonderfully made, each one carrying a spark of the divine, each one capable of incredible good and also of terrible error. I love the patriot and the protester, the conservative and the liberal, the native-born and the immigrant, the wealthy and the poor, the CEO and the janitor, the soldier and the pacifist, and my love for each is unconditional, boundless and eternal. I love the bustling diversity of your cities and the quiet solitude of your countryside, the energy of your innovation and the resilience of your traditions, the soaring beauty of your architecture and the raw, untamed majesty of your natural wonders. For in all of it, I see the creativity and complexity of the children I have placed here. And finally, you are free. You are free not because of the Bill of Rights, as precious and hard-won as those freedoms are, but because my Son has set you free, and whom the Son sets free is free indeed. This is a freedom that transcends political systems and social conditions, a freedom that can be experienced by a prisoner in a cell as much as by a citizen walking a city street, a freedom of the soul, a freedom from the tyranny of sin and death and fear, a freedom to love, to forgive, to serve, to become the person I created you to be. The freedoms guaranteed by the Constitution, the freedom of speech, of religion, of the press, of assembly, these are beautiful gifts, frameworks within which you can work out your salvation, wrestle with truth, and build a just society, but they are not the ultimate freedom. The ultimate freedom is the freedom to know me, to experience my love, to rest in my holding, and to live a life of love in response. This is the freedom that empowered the early Christians in the Roman Empire, the freedom that sustained the abolitionists, the freedom that gave courage to the civil rights marchers, and it is the freedom that is available to you this very morning. So as you go into this new day, carry these truths with you. See your nation, the United States of America, not just as a place on a map, but as a community of people, each one a beloved child of God, each one held, each one loved, each one offered the same freedom you have been offered. Let this knowledge shape how you treat your neighbor, how you engage in political discourse, how you respond to those with whom you disagree. Let it soften your heart toward the stranger and the outcast, for in welcoming them, you welcome me. Let it give you hope in the face of despair, for the story is not ultimately written by presidents or policies, but by the persistent, redemptive love of a Father who is working all things together for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purpose. The hills of Appalachia and the valleys of California, the Rust Belt and the Sun Belt, the red states and the blue states, all are part of my vineyard, and I am the vine dresser, patiently pruning and tending, waiting for the harvest of justice and righteousness to ripen. The struggles of this nation, the deep divisions, the lingering wounds of history, the debates over what it truly means to be a free and just society, these are not signs that the dream is dead, but rather that the birthing process is still underway, that the labor pains of a more perfect union continue, and I am with you in the labor, breathing with you, strengthening you, whispering words of encouragement and hope. Do not grow weary in doing good, For in due season you will reap a harvest if you do not give up. Be agents of reconciliation in a world of division, voices of reason in a cacophony of anger, hands of healing in a world of hurt. Let the love I have for you flow through you to your family, your community, your nation, and your world. For this is the great calling, the great adventure, the great joy of being my child, to be held in love, and then to let that love hold others, to be loved unconditionally, and then to love unconditionally, to be set free, and then to spend your life freeing others from whatever chains bind them. The journey of the United States is, in many ways, a mirror of your own spiritual journey, a long, slow, often painful, but ultimately hopeful process of becoming who you were always meant to be. There have been detours and dead ends, mountaintop experiences and valley lows, moments of profound grace and seasons of deep darkness. But through it all, the thread of my purpose has remained unbroken. The light of my love has never been extinguished. So on this new day, as the sun rises over this great and complicated land, I say to you again, my child, hear my voice above the noise of the world, feel my presence beneath the chaos of your thoughts. Know my love beyond all doubt and fear. You are held, you are loved, you are free. Now go and live like it, go and love like it. Go and build a nation, a community, a life that reflects this profound and beautiful truth. For my kingdom is not a place you go to when you die, but a reality you bring to birth wherever you are, whenever you choose to love, whenever you extend grace, whenever you stand for justice, whenever you offer a cup of cold water in my name. And I am with you always, even to the end of the age, holding you, loving you, and celebrating the freedom that is your birthright as my child, a child of the living God, a citizen of a kingdom that knows no borders, and a beloved participant in the great and unfolding story of a nation that, for all its flaws, still dares to hope, still strives to heal, and still dreams of liberty and justice for all.